Where the self-righteous siege of social justice jackdaws are concerned, I only really have one question. In today's litigious society, is there a legal precedent for an entire planet to file a restraining order? As fellow YouTuber Sargon of Akkad was kind enough to point out, the fuckwad foundry that is MetalInjection.net floated a beguiling little air biscuit a couple months back, remonstrating metalheads like myself for employing politically incorrect verbiage like faggot. In and of itself, far from noteworthy, particularly as it was posted on Metal Injection. If this site were any more anonymous, Rob Lowe would be paying it for sex. I'm not saying their YouTube videos go unwatched, but if views were dollars, by God, they would be hundredaires. As evidenced by their Iron Sheik Reviews Metal Bands video that would have been uproariously funny in 2007, there's little that doesn't involve a trained circus bear and a Sibian that they aren't ready and willing to do for 5 entire views. Thusly, in a desperate plea for relevance, it appears their latest move is a pirouette directly onto the stern of the U.S.S. S.J.W. After all, why let a good trend pass you by? Worked for Metallica. Rather aptly, Sargon would go on to itemize several articles from the preceding decade, documenting the steady encroachment of social justice upon the designedly antisocial institution of heavy metal, setting a shot-put record in the process for farthest distance from the fucking point. Social justice? Really? In the music genre that gave us shotgun justice? Yeah, good luck pushing the big government gun control agenda in the musical movement that gave us Panzer Division Marduk. What's next? Working the glory hole scene at a Klan rally? But where I take exception is with the flagrant, vaguely propagandist nature of the argument's presentation. The New York Times Metal is Growing Up article goes 17 miles out of its way to illustrate the genre's coming of age, rather ironically by spotlighting some of its youngest, least respected or successful musicians. Look, Lamb of God, Cannibal Corpse, and Napalm Death have turned a dime or two, no question. But if you really wanted to nail down a prominent figure in metal who routinely expresses their political opinions, you might have just as easily chosen Alice Cooper or Blackie Lawless of W.S.S, or here's a thought, the openly homosexual frontman of Judas Priest, Rob Halford, all of whom have expressed political viewpoints outside of their music and in some cases within, and all of whom have enjoyed far more storied, successful, and relevant heavy metal careers than Lamb of God, Napalm, fucking Death, or any of the others mentioned in the accompanying article. I'll tell you exactly why they didn't mention them. Because all those legendary metal icons have gone on the record as expressing decidedly non-liberal political sentiments. During the Chick-fil-A done like gay people drama of 2012, Rob Halford of Judas Priest, as was reported by virtually no one in the mainstream press, actually spoke in Chick-fil-A's defense. I repeat, a member of arguably the second most important metal band after Black Sabbath and a bona fide gay icon spoke for freedom of speech and against totalitarian cunt flaps like Boston Mayor Tom Menino or Chicago's Joe Moreno, both of whom attempted to abuse their power to bar a fucking business from opening in their city simply because they disagreed with their politics. Shortly after Obama's inauguration, W.S.S main man Blackie Lawless released the music video for his post-apocalyptic masterpiece Babylon's Burning, and well, you should probably just watch.
Sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, 10 crowns upon his head, who is like unto the beast, giving his mouth great things to speak. If any man has an ear, let him hear.
Ah, well, one less person for Michelle to send a Christmas card to this year, I suppose. Now, but the fact remains that these prominent, influential figures in metal, considerably more influential than the aberrant conglomeration of Hot Topic bands cited in the accompanying article, were ignored for a reason. Now, of all things, the idea that metalheads adhere fanatically to gender stereotypes in fashion? I think you may be onto something there. Or the very suggestion that we adhere to strict fashion dogma? Hold on a second. Fuck, sorry. Leg itches from not wearing fucking cargo pants. Stereotypical gender dogma in metal? We worship a man named Alice. If we were all perfectly honest, we'd admit our earliest crutch was the blonde chick from Poison. You're not just barking up the wrong tree, you're not even in the right forest. I'll tell you exactly why we're not afraid to employ the word faggot. Because to metalheads, it's utterly powerless. We use it because it only offends people who deserve to be offended by it. Simpering, entitled shitbags who believe it's their personal calling in life to impose their didactic bullshit worldview onto others, shouting down any and all opposition in the process, all gallingly in the name of freedom of speech. Make no mistake, what Sargon and others are describing as MetalGate is nothing more than the latest chapter in a long, sad story of unchecked political correctness that has been building in this country since the early 90s. It's simply that now it has an unlikely ideological ally in the Anita Sarkeesians of the world. If you're not a metal fan, bully for you. Different strokes for different genitals. But are you beginning to see the full picture here? I mean, during the rash of school shootings, they came for your self-defense rights, and you didn't give a fuck because you're not a gun owner. They whitewashed television 15 fucking years ago. And if you don't believe me, where the fuck is the titty station you used to have on basic cable back in the day? But you didn't bat an eyelash because by then you'd moved on to fucking video games. They came for your games, and finally, after decades of ignorance, a few of you at last perked a fucking ear. And now they're using their gains in gaming to move on to your music. There's no debate to have here, people, because their ideology is couched in a complete denial of the existence of a viable opposing view. Gamergate was just the latest casualty of the decades-old socialist claptrap espoused by Jonathan McIntosh, the man behind the curtain operating the life-sized Anita Sarkeesian android, and quite possibly the only Macintosh more pretentious than the corporation of the same name. So the modern left begins in the 60s, dropping blotter acid at hard rock festivals to piss their parents off while their hapless folks try to legislate hippies away. You grow up, get a spare tire and a skeegy gray ponytail, and shit out the single most entitled generation in human history, and then promptly set about trying to legislate everything away? Movies, music, video games? Are you fucking hearing yourselves? Do you own any mirrors, or did you have them all incinerated for projecting an unrealistic image of beauty? If the symbolism were any more obvious, it'd be a fucking Silent Hill monster. You ran so hard from your parents, you became them on crack. In the immortal words of Dennis Miller, is there anything more tedious than a revolutionary with a pension? I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.